Okay, morning everyone. Welcome to Ian's RC Exploits. And what I've got today is a cold and bleak, windy morning. And today I'm flying the 330S. So join in, see how it goes. Roll the intro. Okay, yeah, as I said, it's a very cold, bleak morning, a bit breezy. It's the first flight of 2022, so Happy New Year to everyone on YouTube. And it's a special Christmas for me because we had the birth of my first grandchild, my granddaughter Isabel, so very exciting time. As I said in the intro, what I'm flying is the Blade 330S. And I've been absolutely inundated the last couple of weeks with people asking me about the 330S. Same old thing, they get it, they set the radio up, they try to fly it, it drifts, it doesn't respond one way to cycler controls. So I thought I would fly mine today. All my business with the 330S is on my channel, from the maiden flight right through to where I feel now. It's not perfect, but it flies, and it does seem to be quite dependable. So, you know, I try to help everybody that gets in touch with me, but really it all comes down to experiencing things and trying things. I've posted everything that I've done to try and help people. Unfortunately, these faults normally end up in this thing crashing, which is terrible, but unfortunately people tend to fly with the normal mode, with the safe, and they're limited on experience, and you know, sometimes they haven't got that experience to sort these issues out. So I'm going to fly it today anyway. It's a bit windy, but wish me luck.
Timer start.
Okay then, my hands are freezing, so let's take it nice and careful. And it is a windy old day today, and I haven't flown anything for weeks. We've had torrential rain and a little bit of snow, gale force winds pretty much for the 2 weeks that I was off over the Christmas holiday. Now what I've been explaining to people is, even now with mine, although it doesn't do all that leaning around on takeoff, sometimes when I start flying it, I could tell that it has got a little bit of drift, and I normally just hover it for around for a minute to wait for that drift to clear, and then I can tell then by how it feels if the cyclic response has gone back to normal. So now it feels okay, but I mean, it's a blustery old day.
Yeah, very gusty.
Add that to the fact that I'm feeling quite rusty as far as headies are concerned. Could be a recipe for disaster, but there you go. Keen to fly something. So it's not ideal, the fact that sometimes I've got to just hover it pretty much on the spot to make allowances for the gyro. It's almost like as if it takes time to initialize, and it shouldn't be like that, but it's what I learned that I've got to do to overcome the drift issues. But now it's you know, it's flying okay now, so Obviously just being very careful of that nasty wind. And as I said, you know, people message me and it's very difficult over YouTube because all you've got is just messages, and I really do try to help everybody. But you know, sometimes it's very frustrating because you just know that the person you're speaking to, they haven't gained the experience that they need really to sort the thing out. And you know, I don't know whether Horizon Hobby are aware of all the issues with this 330S. And unfortunately, you know, when I was having all the issues, mine resulted in the thing crashing. And then it got sent back then to be looked at, and they judged the gyro to be okay. And then what I did then was I discovered that by altering the attitude trim settings, you could stop it from drifting, because out of the box it just wants to drift forward and drift sideways. And by adjusting those trim settings and just using, even though the instructions tell you not to have any expo, I found just by having a little bit of expo on the cyclic controls stops the heli leaning around on takeoff. Okay, so that's the end of my first flight. My hands are bitterly cold.
It's freezing.
Just go and get it down on the pad. I doubt it because I'm a bit rusty. Oh, missed. Okay, again. Right, down. Okay. You know, as I've said, it's very frustrating, and my videos are there from the maiden flight right through. So if you're having difficulty, then try and watch my videos. I've tried to help people, but one thing I will say is remember that your heli is different to my heli. The settings that I decided were right for mine might be completely wrong for your helicopters. So you know, it's a massive learning curve that, you know, I've tried to speed up for people by posting all the things that I've discovered about the Blade 330S. Okay, continuing on about the issues that people have with the 330S, I'm just going to run through a few things that I found are absolutely imperative to do when you're setting up this helicopter. Okay, so I spoke to somebody yesterday and I said, remember that, you know, the heli, it can be affected by centre of gravity issues, so you need to always make sure that, and I just do it simply by, I can see there that by the time the canopy is on, it's going to be pretty neutral, right? So you know, you need to check the centre of gravity. If I just put the weight of the canopy on as well. So you want the heli in the neutral, okay? Not nose heavy and not tail heavy, so that has a big factor. And if it's not slid back right to where it should be, then you know, you might not get the exact result. But I can tell that once the canopy is perfectly in place, that is going to be okay. The second thing, very, very important, I always make sure that my heli is as level as it possibly can be, and then when I plug it in, I leave it and let it go through a setup cycle. Very, very important. You don't want to be touching it when it's going through that setup process. Okay, one of the other issues I found with the 330S out of the box is it comes with a serial receiver, okay, and you've got two antennas. Now it's very important, if you look, I've got the one antenna coming out the back there, now the other antenna is sticking out the side, so they're at 90 degrees to each other. But I also decided to fit the satellite receiver and the antenna is pointing straight up, right, so it's opposed to those two antennas. With just a standard receiver, this failed range tests every time. To do a range test, you go 20 steps away from the heli, and I was doing it and I was getting holes, and they say that if you get a hold, you should check your antenna position and make sure that you adjust it, try again, because you don't want to fly if you're getting holes on your range test. Very, very important. Now with the satellite receiver, I find I don't get any holes at all, but I always do a range test before each time I fly. Very, very important. Okay, right. Another thing that I discovered as well, one of my friends said to me that the gyros don't like a sudden change in their ambient temperature. So if you had the helicopter in a warm room and then you bring it out in the cold, that gyro can play up. What I tend to do is put the helicopter in the car just to let it sort of like acclimatise to the weather conditions. It makes sense really, and when I used to just bring it straight out and plug it straight in, then it did seem to amplify those drift issues. So that's something else that I also put into place as well. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention was what I found it helpful to do as well was recalibrate the gyro. What I bought was a very, very small spirit level to fit on top of the gyro, and then obviously I just position the heli to make sure that it's perfectly level both that way and that way, and then do the gyro recalibration, and I felt that really helped with the way that the heli was taking off and the way that the heli was flying. So you know, just all these things need to be done and put together, you know, to sort the 330S out. So okay, so it's a bit blustery today, so sorry about the wind noise. I'm going to give it a second flight now and just go through basically what I have to do really to get my 330S flying successfully. So okay, so I spool up. And then I just have a feel of the cyclic controls there. Just do the cyclic controls both ways. And if I feel that it's not moving in both directions equally, then I just keep it on the spot. But I could tell that at the moment mine is okay, it's responding quite nicely. And what I advise people is, especially when they're doing the maiden flights, is if you spool up and the heli starts just leaning around, then my advice is not to fly. If you find you take off up into a hover and then it starts drifting, normally forward and to the left, then if you can, put the thing straight back down, because once it gets into that drift, you won't have any cyclic control to bring the heli back, and that's exactly what happened to me that caused this thing to crash over in the school you can see in front of us. You know, I'm trying to sort of like help people not to get into that horrible situation where they crash their brand new 330S, because they're not cheap, you know. A guy said to me yesterday, so disappointed because it's cost £500. By the time he's bought the heli and the radio, you know, you're looking at £500, and that is a lot of money. You can see now, she is flying quite nicely there. And I've said it's a bit windy today, so
it's just a wind chill.
Keeping things simple.
Time remaining 2 minutes.
You know, it's a shame really that this heli is plagued with these issues. I've got this gyro on 2 of my T-Rex helicopters and it performs absolutely perfectly, but for some reason the factory settings on the 330S, especially in the normal mode, which when you think if you're buying a heli because you want to learn to fly a helicopter, then having that safe mode, right, that'll help the heli to right itself, you've got a panic button, really is aimed at people that are sort of like in the early days of flying a helicopter, and you know, they're just not going to have the skill set to put the thing right. And the other big problem as well, and this is the biggest problem that I come across in people messaging me, is that they buy the ready to fly version, which comes with a radio that hasn't got any sort of like computer functions, so you can't go into the forward programming settings and alter the settings, so you're just stuck with a helicopter that just drifts out of control. And unless you spend more money then on a computerized radio, you can't get into the forward programming menus and carry out any adjustments. So I feel very, very sorry for the people that buy the ready to fly version of this helicopter, and it is very, very frustrating. Okay, so right, let's get it in for another landing. And it is very, very cold. My hands are bitterly cold. Okay, a little bit of a bounce there. Yeah, so you know, the reason why I do these videos is to try and help people. I've had 2 flights now this morning. It's working okay, it's performing well, it's not drifting. I put that down to the fact that I adjusted those attitude trim settings. When mine came from the factory, it was set to roll 250, pitch 250. When I tried to fly it, it would just drift forward and to the left. I then, by putting the helicopter in flight mode 1 and then switching to normal mode, you could see which way your swash plate is drifting. And what I did then was I adjusted the attitude trim settings, so when I switch from flight mode 1 to normal mode, the swash plate stays in the same position, which I felt then would make the thing hover correctly. You know, it's worked for mine. I can't say that it's going to work for yours, but you know, I'm trying to help all you guys. And the thing is, what people don't understand when they message me on YouTube, you're not on your own. You know, I've had 4 people message me just in the last week about this helicopter, and I've had, you know, umpteen messages over the last year. What I tend to do is on one of the videos for this helicopter, the attitude trim setting video, I've pinned a couple of comments where people have said to me that they've gone away and they've done what I've said to do in the video, and that now their heli is flying much more manageable and it feels much more sorted. So it does seem to work, and that's just like one comment that I've pinned. And I've had umpteen comments where people have said to me, "Oh, brilliant! You know, thank you very much for your time and effort that you've put into explaining the issues with this helicopter. Mine is now flying well." So I can't guarantee it is going to work, but I can guarantee that it has worked for other people, and you know, I'm just trying to help people with the issues with this helicopter. Okay, thank you for watching.
Bye.